Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, it's been a while since I've done an event video, and this one happens to be a brand new event that we're going to get. I do believe it's going to be on Christmas for the global sad. And also sad note too, a Merry Christmas to everybody as well who happens to celebrate it. In fact, I happened to have a birthday yesterday on the 23rd, so I had two things to basically celebrate. But getting back into this event, this is a brand new event that we're going to have. Japanese sides already had like 7 of these. We're going to have our first one. It is the Magic Jewel event, and this is a very special type of event because it's one of those that doesn't show up all that often, first off, and then second, there's some pretty big restrictions in order to try and get the rewards for this. I will say this out the gate. Try your best in this event regardless of how strong you are, just like Tower, just like Guild competition, just like Union event. You still want to try and get as far as you can, basically, regardless of how strong or weak you are. But starting off, let's go over how this thing works. First off, the whole premise of this event is trying to defeat enemies in order to gain magic jewels. You get magic jewels from killing certain enemies in the waves, but you generally want to take out as many waves as possible. Some of them are boss enemies as well. I think there's like 3 of them. But we'll go over that a little bit later. But there's a few catches to this. First off, you have only 10 turns to go through all 10 waves. Yeah, I said 10 turns to go through all 10 waves. Once you start turn 11, your run immediately ends. Like, you can't even attack with an ability or anything. The minute you try to do anything on turn 11, it immediately ends the run. Now, the second gimmick about all of this is the fact that to help you out, sometimes when you defeat an enemy, it will drop an item that will reduce your ability cooldown. So, characters that use frequent abilities are really going to be helpful here. Especially if they're, like, focused swords of ability damage, because that tends to be one of the best things for these type of events. But deal that damage however fast you can, however you can do it. But the other gimmick, which is a big one too, you can't use the same character twice. What that means is this. There is 3 separate runs you'll be doing, so you make 3 parties. If you put a Kamihime in one party, they can't be in any other ones. If you put a soul in one party, the same rules apply, meaning that you can only use each soul once. So you have to have at least 3 souls. Yeah, that's a big one. Now, the other thing about that is that if you happen to change any of your teams after doing a run, it will reset your score. So, however jewels you got from your runs or whatever gets reset. You don't get awarded those jewels until the event's over. So you can try to reset your teams and get better scores if you want. But keep the one thing in mind that if you reset any of your teams, your score will reset. Now the teams are on their own little screen for this event, so it doesn't matter if you change your teams for raids or any of that type of stuff. They won't affect your score. Only on the event screen where you build your teams at. So it's like a separate list of teams for just this event alone. Now, other things that need to be mentioned too. You can reuse your add-ons and weapons. They can be shared between the parties. You can also go off element or without element on advantage, but there is a penalty starting the 6th wave onward where you deal 10% of the damage you normally would. So anybody that's looking for some quick kills, you may want to just do that with your best team, because you'll at least get halfway through the thing. But another big thing too to keep in mind, that you most definitely will struggle to get all the magic jewels from this. So you definitely want some pretty strong teams if you want to try and get every single jewel. You can get up to 6,000 magic jewels from this. It is 2,000 per run. So if you want, in my opinion, if you want the best amount of jewels, you want to try and spread your teams out, because if you go hard focus on the one, then it will probably make the others suffer. So it's trying to find a good balance between all your teams in order to get the most jewels you can. You will almost always not get the 6,000. I'm pretty sure of that because it is extremely difficult to do so. Only the people with the strongest teams probably will get that, and even then they might struggle. So it all depends on how how you set up your teams, what characters you have, and so on and so forth. Any souls that you've unlocked, because there's a lot of stuff to keep track of on there. And the last thing I should also suggest too is that if you happen to have any of those Eidolons that give you like that 1 million free damage when you summon them, they're probably going to be very, very useful here. So keep that in mind as well. And another thing, if you happen to have any of the timepiece accessories, now is probably a good time to break out pretty much any of them, because the ability damage ones are probably going to be good, the normal attack ones are probably going to be good, and the burst ones are probably going to be good depending on your teams. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, it's also going to cost you AP in order to do each attempt as well, but it's pretty mediocre as far as I know. But enemies do indeed get stronger as you start going through the waves, so you'll kill the early ones pretty quickly, but as a result, the ones in the harder waves tend to give you more jewels per drop, so that's another thing. But going into a lot of the suggested stuff, characters that can frequently use abilities, or even set up a nuke every single turn or whatever, they're going to be pretty good. Characters that can spread out their damage or deal a lot of it at once are pretty good. Characters that can generally like majorly buff up the team, like you probably want them too, because like characters that give you very high multiplier buffs or something like that is just going to massively spike your damage, and you want to kill these enemies as fast as possible. But generally when they suggest different types of souls, Solomon is the only one that they're probably going to use from A rank, so that's something to know. Medea is also pretty good for this. They're suggesting Paracelsus, they're suggesting Caspar, they're suggesting some souls we don't even have in the game yet, which is like Edison and Alhazred, because they're new souls that we get later on in 6th anniversary. But depending on how fast your team can burst and all that too, Yori might actually be good, but you do need some ability damage characters in order to fill the gaps I'd suggest. Another soul that may or may not help you out is probably Parashurama, because she can also deal a lot of high damage to a single enemy, and don't forget there are some bosses here, so that's another thing. But if you are using Caspar, definitely use that buff effect, or use the snatch multicasting, because she'll constantly keep firing those off. But another thing too, enemy HP is going to be as follows. There's 3 enemies with 50,000 HP on wave 1, triple that for wave 2, so 150,000 for each enemy on wave 2, 250,000 on wave 3, still 3 enemies, 1.2 million HP for a boss on wave 4, 750,000 HP for 3 enemies on wave 5, double that HP for wave 6, so they all have 1.5 million. There's another boss that has 17.5 million HP on wave 7. Wave 8, 3 enemies each with 8 million HP. Wave 9, 3 enemies with 10 million HP apiece. And wave 10 is the third and final boss, where there's a 50 million HP enemy. So your bosses are going to be on waves 4, 7, and 10, basically. All the other ones are like quote-unquote normal mobs, but they also start scaling up with a very good amount of HP in the later half, so keep that in mind. But honestly, if you get some very good AoE ability damage, you can easily nuke through waves 1 through 6, but keep in mind that wave 6 is where you start getting the elemental advantage thing, so if you're not using the advantage element, in this case it's wind, then you're going to start losing damage from wave 6 onward, so keep that in mind. And it's also suggested too that you try to basically just use as little turns as possible in the earlier parts, because you probably will start sucking them up in the later ones. So a good time to unload all your abilities is probably at the start of the fight. So definitely try to go for that type of strategy. You don't want to build up and then unload later. You just want to do as much as you can out the gate so you get as far as possible off of that. But the only other thing too that I don't really need to mention, but it's something interesting. Based on how well you do on the event, you'll get a special animation at the end of it when the jewels are rewarded. You don't get to see the animation if you don't do anything in the event, as in 0 jewels, but they all involve Alyssa basically reacting to how many jewels you got. Believe it or not, she actually has an animation where she's crying if you do pretty poor in the event. And then there's her celebrating a massive pile of jewels if you happen to do it as strong as you can in the event. If I can, I will upload the one that you get for them doing the best possible, where she's like in the massive pile of jewels is celebrating. If I can, I will upload that and put it on the community tab, but if not, you'll possibly see it. It all depends. But just another little interesting sad thing I should mention. But because mainly the whole summary of this event is her greed just going crazy trying to beat up these enemies in order to get the jewels from them. But again, big thing. You need 3 separate parties, including the souls. So if you don't have multiple souls unlocked, you will have very big issues, and I mean multiple S-class souls. So that said, good luck. But and again, like I said, just smack this anyways, regardless of how strong you are, because you're still going to get some jewels regardless. It's not that hard to beat up the enemies up to wave 6 basically. Maybe even wave 7, because that's about a ultimate raid enemy. It's wave 8 onward where you might actually struggle to do it in the 10 turns, so there's that. But anyways, that's all for this event. And the only other thing I can mention too is that this event should go on alongside another event, so you'll see another event video pop up whenever that happens, because I remember it's a raid event and it's got some weird old enemy we fight. But other than that, again, good luck to anybody that's doing this. And once again, Merry Christmas to anybody who celebrates a holiday, because I know this event's going to come out on Christmas. So there you go for that one. And side note too, I hope you pulled on some of the stuff that they had recently, because they have given us a lot of free pulls and we're still getting more. If you happen to get 250 out of those free pulls, you are guaranteed to get an SSR you don't own. So you do want to get all of those pulls you can get. So if you happen to be behind, even try to build that back up to get your 250. But and expect some more free stuff too later down the line, I do believe, including some content updates as well. But I'll cover those when that happens. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this will come soon, and take care.